Hi, baby girl. The sound of Kara's voice reverberated through the room, and Laurie felt a sob coming out of her mouth. How are you? I hope you're doing fine. Right now, you're still in your mommy's belly, and you're almost here. In 2 weeks, you should be in the outside world with us. She laughed a little, and Laurie heard her mother hold her sobs back. I know this probably isn't what you were expecting. I hope you like it anyway. I don't know why, but I just felt like making a video, like Good Luck Charlie, though you probably don't know what that is. She laughed again. Lorelei remembered her mother telling her about how Kara's laugh was delicious to hear, and she agreed. You are an adult now, and I know how terrifying that sounds. You have the weight of the world on your shoulders. You have to deal with powers that you never asked for. And you have to deal with college. Yeah, it sounds horrible. And I so deeply hope that I can be there for you when it happens. But in case I'm not, I want to make sure you know this. I love you so much. Sweet pie. I have loved you ever since I first heard of you. I go to sleep every night hearing your heartbeats, and I dream of holding you next to my heart. She paused, and Laurie was crying so hard that the tears were fogging up her vision. I am so very proud of the woman you became. I just know that you are going to be as smart as your mom, as stubborn as me, and maybe a little less dork than us. Maybe you'll be a scientist like Lena, or a journalist like me, or maybe a doctor, who knows? It doesn't matter. You're going to be incredible anyway. Just don't forget, whatever happens, stand by this. Hope, help, and compassion for all. Always protect your family and your loved ones. Love as much as you can. Smile every time there is a chance for you to do so. And remember that everything I've ever done was thinking about you, your mom, and our family's safety. I love you to the moon and back, baby girl. Bye. She smiled and the screen turned black. A couple of seconds later, though, Kara's voice was heard again. She showed up on the screen, hair in a ponytail and looking very tired. Hey there, she said. Look who was just born. And the camera showed a baby in Kara's left arm. Laurie felt her heart clenching inside her chest. But what are you doing, darling? A tired Lena sounded across the white hospital room. Oh, just a little something, don't mind me. She blushed and smiled to where Laurie supposed Lena was. She looked back at the camera. You are so small. So tiny, but you have a bunch of dark hair just like Lena. And you also have my blue eyes, look. And the camera was in front of her baby self, bright blue little eyes shining up. Alex said you look like me, but I think you look like Lena. Callie said you look like a normal baby. The 18-year-old chuckled. I disagree. You are too adorable. Normal babies look like knees when they are born. She shrugged. Your mommy is very, very tired, so we won't bother her for too long. But look at this. You're already smiling. Isn't it, baby? She smiled at the baby, and little Laurie smiled back at her. All right. Let's give your mommy some rest time. Goodbye. I love you. She kissed the camera, and the video ended. The room was quiet for a few minutes. Everyone in the room crying, Lena and Alex holding each other as they sobbed together. Her cousin Jay touched her right knee in sympathy, and the young adult knew it was enough. She needed to get out of there. She got up and went for the balcony. What are you doing, Laurie? Jade asked. But she just flew away. The wind was blowing cold kisses to her tear-washed face, and Laurie couldn't remember ever feeling this blue. She thought to herself, why couldn't Kara be here? She survived so much. Why did she have to go? Stupid blonde hero, always thinking about the world's best interests, and now she was gone. The world had no other super since Clark gave up on his powers after Kara passed away, and her cousins were also still in training. Lena never dated anyone else. Being in love with Kara ever since the first day they met, her Aunt Alex still had nightmares of holding her sister's limp body, and she grew up only knowing her mother's ghost, imagining what it would be like if she was there when she first got sick, when she had her first kiss, or when her powers first showed up and she didn't know how to deal with them. She kept replaying Kara's words in her head, and she cried more and more with each phrase. She flew as fast as she could for as long as she could, probably flying the entire world again and again until something changed. It was summer. So why was the weather so cold? Wait, is this snow falling on her shoulders? She heard many engines, but 90% of people used electric cars. What was happening? She saw a road down from where she was floating, and quickly looking around, she guessed she was back at National City. She came down on the side road and went across the street, not paying much attention to the traffic. She heard tires stopping, and when she looked at it, a black SUV was centimeters away from her left leg. Oh my God, a familiar voice sounded from inside the car. Are you okay? A blonde woman came out of it. I almost hit you. And Laurie's world stopped spinning. It couldn't be. There was no way. Absolutely no way. But as the woman came closer to her, there was no mistaking. That was Kara Danvers, her mother, who was dead. Mom? She whispered to herself, and she hoped Kara didn't hear it. Why didn't you look around? You could have been hurt, girl, Kara exasperatedly said. Are you okay? You seem lost. She had a small crinkle on her forehead that Laurie had never seen before. She felt tears filling her eyes and gulped. Oh God, why don't you have a coat? It's snowing, the reporter said, and took off her own coat, putting it around the girl's shoulder, and Laurie felt tears streaming down her face. That was her mother, standing right in front of her, touching her. Don't cry, it's okay, nothing happened. A car honked behind them. Wait a second, please, she screamed to the car and turned to the brunette in front of her. Come on, get in, you're super cold. Laurie couldn't say anything. Tears were still slowly streaming down her face. She just entered the car. Kara got in after her and started it. Where do you live? She asked, and Laurie was confused for a few seconds. I live here in National City, she said, and Kara laughed and looked at her. Not city, silly. What's your address? A chuckle managed to escape Laurie's mouth due to her own silliness. Maybe a little less dark than us sounded around her mind again, and she wanted to tell her mum that she was in fact darkier than them. But then she realized there was a problem. If this was Kara, suppose she went back in time. And if she did, she couldn't just give Lena's penthouse address. I don't have one. Kara looked confused at her. You don't? No. She had to think of a cover-up story quickly. I was kicked out this morning. The fuck, she asked herself. Kicked out? That makes no sense. Really? There was a crinkle in Kara's forehead again, and Laurie felt more tears welling up. Kara's eyes were the exact same shade as blue as hers. Yeah, she mumbled and looked away. My uncle kicked me out. She felt like she was only making things worse, but she had to keep going, or she'd sound suspicious. He found out I'm lesbian. Okay, she told herself, tried to say as little lies as possible. That's horrible. What about your parents? Kara asked. Kara looked at her very closely. They died when I was a kid, and that was a half lie, since only one of her parents had died, the one that was right beside her. and you don't have anywhere else to go. You don't have anyone that can help you. And Laurie shook her head. No one. Her best friends weren't even born yet. Her cousins were still toddlers, except for Jade, who wasn't even a fetus yet. And she couldn't reach out for her family. Kara looked at her for the 10th time, bit her lip as if she was debating with herself, and a determined look showed up on her face. Okay, you can stay with me and my wife for a while. Is that okay for you? Lena's heart skipped a beat. She was also going to see Lena then. It is. Thank you very much, she nodded. I'm Lizzie, by the way. A half-lie. That was her second name. Not first. Eliza Jones. Jones was her girlfriend's last name, and if they got married in the future, that's going to be one of Laurie's names, so maybe another half-lie. Eliza, Kara smiled. That's my mom's name. I like it. And Laurie knew it. That was the exact reason why that was her second name. Are you hungry? Her mother asked after a few moments. We're almost there. I can stop at a cafe and grab you something. Laurie, being Kara's daughter, obviously was, so she nodded. Anything specific you want? Donuts and a black coffee, please? And the blonde smiled again. I was thinking about ordering the same thing. They arrived at Lena's penthouse. It was now Kara's too, and got out, holding the bag that contained donuts in one hand and the coffee cups in the other. I already texted my wife when I was waiting in line, and I told her about you. She is super cool, but she's pregnant. So you might want to keep the vanilla-flavored donuts untouched. That's her favorite, Kara said as she was unlocking the door. Laurie got in after the blonde and looked around. It wasn't much different, except for a few things. Kara's touches, she guessed. There was an extra cup at the sink, 2 extra coats at the hanger, a bunch of papers and notebooks at the coffee table, and a package of breakfast cereal at the kitchen island. On the walls, the pictures weren't much different, missing only the ones with Laurie in them. She smiled a little. You can put these here, Kara gestured to the island. I'm going to go check on my love. She smiled and went to the direction of her room. The girl noticed the calendar and looked at it. January 13th, 2022. 5 exact months before she was born. She looked around again and realized that she had actually just met her Jiju, Kara Danvers, her mother whom she never got to meet. She was just a few feet away from her. She was there. Laurie could touch her, could look into her eyes, could hug her. She felt tears threatening to escape her eyes. She never imagined it to be possible. Of course she knew that time travel existed. Barry Allen was one of her tutors after all. She just never thought she could do it. Besides, there were so many dangers in time traveling to risk anything. She wondered if she being here could change anything in the future. She heard footsteps behind her and turned around to see Lena with her hair wet. Kara was already sat, a donut in her hand. Hello, her mother timidly said with an outstretched hand. I'm Lena Luthor, Kara's wife. Laurie noticed the small baby bump and realized that was her. She was standing in front of her mother, and paradoxically inside her belly at the same time. It bugged her mind. Hi, I'm Lizzie. She held her mother's hand and looked into her face. She obviously looked younger, in her late 20s. There were lesser crinkles, her hair was a darker shade of black, and she held herself with a confidence that later on would be an intrinsic part of her personality. But that now was simply a facade. Another thing that broke her heart when she noticed was that on her mother's eyes there was no trace of the pain from losing the love of her life. There were no dark circles caused by nightmares and insomnia. She gulped the pain and smiled a little. Kara told me what happened to you. I'm very sorry. Her mother let go of her hand and touched her forearm. You can stay with us for as long as you need. Lena sympathetically smiled. Thank you very much. I'll try not to be a burden. Lena shook her head and directed Laurie to the island. Don't worry about that. You're not one. Now let's eat before Kara eats everything. Laurie smiled and sat down. She had no idea what to do with everything that kept happening. Maybe the next day she could try traveling back to her own time, but she wasn't sure it would work. She was here by accident, after all. Besides, Kara could find out about her powers, and things would be too hard to explain if that happened. She ate the donuts, keeping in mind that they were from Noonan's, and she remembered Lena taking her there and telling her that it was Kara's favorite cafe. The owner was different at that time, though, so the recipes were also different. After eating the first donut, Laurie considered it one of her favorites too. So, how old are you, Lizzie? Kara gently asked. I'm 18. I'm sorry. She awkwardly laughed. I just turned 18. I'm still confusing it. She laughed again, and both her parents smiled at her. Oh, that's nice, Kara said through her coffee cup. So you're in college? Not really. I took a gap year, she smiled. Last year, though, I applied for a few universities. I was accepted at Harvard, NCU, NYCU, and MCU. I still haven't decided which one I'm going to attend, though. She saw a type of proud look in both Lena and Kara's faces, and a blush crept up her cheek. It was Lena who helped her study all along. Ever since kindergarten, Laurie's accomplishments were thanks to her mom. That's so nice. Congratulations, Kara cheered. What are you going to do? Journalism. Kara's smile became even brighter, and Laurie felt like crying again because her mother is the reason why she wants to be a reporter, and she is standing right in front of her. I did journalism too at National City University. It is a very good college. If you need something, just reach out to me. I work at CACO, she smiled. Lena joined the conversation. She's the editor-in-chief, actually. Lena smiled at Kara, and Laurie saw her mother's face turn red. Her heart felt like jumping out of her chest. There was no way she was actually living this. She dreamt of seeing her mothers together ever since she could remember. She dreamt of seeing her parents lightly flirting with each other like this, and she was seeing it. There was no weight on Lena's shoulder. She wasn't painfully talking about her soulmate, who was long gone. She was simply making Kara Danvers blush, as if it was the easiest thing in the world. As if there were no worries. Laurie was observing her Jiju for the first time in person. She recognized some of the personality traits that everyone talked about, like how much she smiles at basically everything, how she likes to talk with her mouth full, and how she looks at Lena like she holds the stars and the moon in her eyes. She notices the way that her shoulders are broad, her nails are short, and how strong her mother looks. She notices something that she had in common with her, like her dorkiness, her wavy hair, the same nose, and the same smile. She thinks back to every picture and every video of her mom she had ever seen. Kara Danvers was the sun in person, and she would have never known it if she had never went back in time. She felt a lump in her throat again when she realized that at some point she would have to go back to her time. She would have to go back to the world where the sun was missing, where her Jiju was dead and her mother was alone, where she didn't get to see Lena Luthor flirting with the editor-in-chief Kara Danvers. Can I go to the bathroom? She asked, trying to keep her voice steady. Kara noticed something was off, and Laurie knew it. She was way too attentive, and it showed. Yes, of course, it's the first door on the left. She pointed to the hall. Is everything okay? There was the crinkle again, and Laurie felt the urge to sob. She looked at Lena, and she shared the same worried look. Yes, it is. I just need to pee. She forced a smile and went to the bathroom. Once there, with her back resting against the wall, she fought as hard as she could to repress the tears and the sobs that were begging to be released. She knew her mother would be able to hear it, and damn it, it made her want to cry even harder, because she never had to do it before. She never had to worry about someone hearing the smallest of changes in her breath, because Lena didn't have super hearing. She breathed in and out 6 times, like her mother had taught her. She didn't need to think about going back, not yet. She was sure now. Her mother was alive and right next to her. She didn't need to suffer for things that didn't happen. She got up and washed her face. She looked in the mirror and appreciated her own details. She was the perfect combination of her parents. She had a strong jaw, black hair, arched eyebrows and deep dimples just like Lena, and she had blue eyes, wavy hair, and the same nose and smile as Kara. She had the same broad shoulders and strong physique as her blonde mom that was a couple of inches smaller. Her hand was the same as Lena's, and she shared her love for science. She actually liked vegetables, and she loved kale salads. But she also lived for ice cream and pizza. She loved reading and she loved writing. So many things about her that she shared with both of them. She smiled and felt a single tear fall down her cheek, even if she wasn't there for too long. Kara influenced Laurie's life more than she could ever explain, and she loved Kara just as much as she loved Lena. After taking a shower in the same bathroom where she had her midlife crisis, she got dressed in sweatpants that were Kara's and a sweatshirt that was Lena's. The amount of love she felt all day long couldn't be counted. She smiled to herself again as she looked another time in the mirror. It was nighttime by then. Kara had convinced Lena to order pizza. "It is an unusual day and we have someone to cheer up," she said. The pizza was delicious and the conversation was great. Her parents told her about their days, and she found out that there was going to be a game night on Friday, and all of the super friends, of course Kara didn't say it like that, were going to come over for pizza and games. And that Sam was arriving tomorrow to be the CFO of Elko again, since Lena was pregnant. Laurie was excited for that because Ruby was one of her best friends, even if she was older, and she was looking forward to meeting a younger version of her. After eating, she helped them clean up, always amicably talking, and she was always paying attention to as many details as she could see in her mother. "Hey, champion," Kara said to her. She chuckled at the same time. "Are you up for a movie, or would you rather go to sleep? I know your day was a handful and you probably need some time alone, so I won't bother you too much, but if you want to, we can watch something to lighten you up." Laurie smiled and nodded. "Yeah, I could use some distractions." "What is your favorite movie?" Lena, who was sitting down and already setting everything up, asked. Laurie found it to be funny how the television still had a controller, when in her time there wasn't really one. She realized that most of her favorite movies hadn't yet been made, so she tried to think of one that was older than her. I think Back to the Future would be great. She internally laughed at how similar her story was to the movie. "Oh, great choice. It's one of my favorites too," Lena smiled at her, and she heard the popcorn maker start. "That's a smart way to win her over, kid. Science is her Achilles heel." Kara laughed towards her, and Laurie knew it. She couldn't count how many times she had watched this movie with her mom. After it ended, Lena was fast asleep, hand over her baby bump and her head on Kara's shoulder, and Laurie couldn't help but think about how she wished it was a daily thing. That she could get to see more of her mothers together, and they could all have this kind of domestic life. You see, it's not that she isn't grateful for her mother, or Lena wasn't enough, that they weren't a family. Absolutely not. She owes everything to her mother. All that she is, everything that she's ever accomplished. Every time she was sick, it was Lena who took care of her. When she had nightmares, Lena was there to calm her back to sleep. Lena saw her lose her first tooth, took her to her first day of school, heard her cry for the first time over a heartbreak. Lena was enough and had always been enough. And Laurie couldn't have asked for a better mom, not ever. Lena was her best friend most of all, and she loved her mother so much it hurt. They had always been a family, and they always will. But having lived an entire day in the presence of both her mothers, Laurie can't help but wish that this was her life. She can't help but wish that, along with Lena, Kara was there to take care of her when she was sick, that both of her parents had took her to her first day of school, that both of them had cheered over her fallen tooth. After everyone was in bed and Kara was asleep, Laurie allowed herself to cry a bit, silently of course. She didn't sleep much, but she was happy. Incredibly happy. At the same time that she was sad, she reminded herself to not suffer over something that hasn't happened yet. She wondered what tomorrow would bring.